Charm fans, we're back, baby. Episode 13, Maniac, Pixie, Nightmare. A poor Pixie's heart got stolen, all because a spoiled douchebag with an inferiority complex took it just to kill some film students. There's so much to break down. Macy's love life, Mel's love life, and Maggie's love life all light up in one episode. I can't wait to break it down right now.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Charm fans, it's your lucky night because it's just me joining you guys, which means I'm going to need your help in the chat to keep this conversation going. Be my panelist for the night because my two lovely co-panelists couldn't make it, but they will be back next week, so don't worry. But I would love your involvement in this great episode. I see a lot of you guys already liked this episode. I love this episode as well. So we'll be breaking down the monster of the week, which happens to be a poor Pixie who didn't even know what was happening. And then we'll break down each of the sisters alone, what they did on their side B plots. And of course, get to some news and gossip and our special segment where we break down the coinciding episode to the OG Charmed, which will be episode 13, From Fear to Eternity. So all of that and more, and some great predictions. But let's jump right into it. Oh, and by the way, I'm Steph Sabraw. Thanks for joining me, you guys. So let's get into the Pixie. We see, it starts with the scene where we see some magical dust and this poor boy is convinced to jump off a cliff and convinced that he can fly. And at this point, I'm curious if you guys thought that, thank you, if you guys thought that the Pixie was, because I was to believe that pixies are good. Like from all like folklore I've read before, pixies are always good magical creatures. So I was kind of confused on if she was a pixie, even though she did look like a pixie and that was in the title of the name. And we come to find out that she is basically plotting against all the film students. But it's all this guy, the inferiority complex douche, who has stolen her acorn heart. I really like this plot line. The only problem I found with it, though, was with Harry. So from the beginning, I feel like him being able to be under her whim felt weird to me because Harry, I don't know. I don't get why a witch wouldn't succumb to pixie powers, but a whitelighter would. I wonder what you guys think about that. But I loved the Pixie. I thought it was a really cool play on I thought it was a metaphor on like the power of women can play on men, but then it turned into something deeper with playing on the whole this is a dangerous time for white men. And I thought this was a great example of how they're using social conscious thought and theories in their writing and actually making it into a storyline that works. I'm curious what you guys think about that. Mark Ryan, same. I thought the same thing. Billie Jean Girl 24. I didn't think the Pixie was evil. It was obvious that she was being controlled. I didn't think that she was being controlled. I was just like, what is your motive here? Because usually all these creatures or magical beings have motive when they're killing people, most of the time. But I thought it was weird ever since he did jump and then we went to like the vigil that Parker told Maggie about. It seemed off, but I didn't know if they were making a ploy on these white dude film students that are all like in these hats and think that they're really special, when some of them might be, but some of them are really weird. But it was interesting. I'll elaborate on what I didn't like with Harry, because when they actually were trapping her, which I loved the trap that they used, it was all candy, and the way that they got her was with giggles, which is exactly how I would hope that you catch a pixie. What I didn't like is how it just seemed like poor writing to make it that Harry, like they wouldn't plan ahead to know that Harry was going to be tricked by her, obviously, because we already knew that he was tricked by her once, but then you put her in the room, and just because she's in the trap doesn't mean that she can't use her powers. What did you guys think about that? Boss at home. I thought she was going to have privileged white men. OG Charmed had a pixie like episode 2. They were nymphs though. Yeah, I remember that episode. Courtney Glasper, whitelighters' powers are given to them, but they're human. Witches are magical by blood, right? Yeah. Well, that's the case for Harry. He wasn't always a whitelighter. So I guess that is a good point. Carlos, well, in the OG charm, Leo was vulnerable to other magic as well, so not a stretch. Yeah, I guess it wasn't a stretch. What was a stretch was them not planning at all that if he was susceptible, that they wouldn't have him in the same room as the trap where she can still have her magical abilities. So that seemed like Carlos Hernandez. Yeah, that was a mistake that they didn't give Harry the tonic to prevent him from going under her influence. Yeah, that was like, there was a moment where I was watching the TV like, seriously, you know better. But then I will say that they brought it back to life because the way it played into the storyline of what we found out happened to the Pixie made sense to me that Harry was there. It did tie it together, but I think it could have been done in a more thoughtful way that seemed a little bit trickier and more realistic because Harry, none of them are dumb, and this was a dumb move. So then we find out that the woodland pixie's heart is an acorn, and it's an external heart. So if someone takes it, they lose a sense of self and become one-dimensional with one purpose: to please the one who has it. So this is Zach. And Zach, if you guys watch The Magicians, he's also in that show. And I've always loved him. He's kind of like this mischievous character. And in this, he played that perfectly. I thought he was weird, but wouldn't think that he would take it to the next level as a film student, that he would kill off people to be. What we later found out was that he thought that they wouldn't accept more than one white student in the film, in this special film program. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. I'm always surprised by the amount of things I see on Twitter every time this discussion of white privilege, and especially white male privilege, comes on. The defense mechanisms and this cries for help that go out by white males and other people too who come to the defense and say it's such a hard time for white males. What do you guys think about that? Because to me, it's like, you have to acknowledge the privilege. It doesn't mean you're a bad person because you have privilege. It just means that you know you've had it and you should use your privilege for good. I wonder if it irritates you guys, the discussion about white male privilege, but I think that they did it in a really, really good way with Zach personifying this spoiled white male who feels entitled, so entitled that he would kill his fellow students to reach his goals. And ends up wanting to use the Pixie to get Harry to get the Book of Shadows, to get a spell that makes him the most, what was it? Become the best filmmaker of all time. Smart move, but we know with any of those types of spells comes sacrifice usually. And in this case, Harry was willing to sacrifice himself because, quote, he has more blood. I loved Harry's portrayal of kind of the Harry on pixie dust. I think he was so good in this episode, and I saw a few of you writing in the beginning that you loved Harry in this episode. I totally agree with that statement. Carlos Hernandez, yeah, the idea of the poor white guys need help made me want to hurl, LOL. I love that. He wanted to kill off his competition. Yeah, white male privilege. Oh, poor him. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, seriously, we all have competition. You just have to be the best. I really think, like, the way the world works, if you outwork everyone and you are a good person, you will get what you want, what is meant for you. You'll always get what is meant for you. But then the story about the Pixie is actually really sad, and I love the actress's portrayal of this character because I was like tearing up when she kind of came to after and they stole the acorn heart back from Zach. and gave it to her, and she realized what she has done, because it was the prior, like the notion that we have of pixies was how pixies are. They are supposed to be the most benevolent creatures and super nice and kind and always doing good things. So you saw when she found out what she's done, when she got her heart back, she was in complete disbelief and even said, like, how could I ever live with myself? And I felt so bad for her, because this poor pixie cutie should never have to have endured knowing that she killed people at the hands of Zach's wishes. And the line where she's like, I was just living my best life working at my pop-up cafe, and Zach set up a trap that I fell right into. So sad. And that she was like, I guess it's hard nowadays to be a white guy. I love the sister's response when they were like, no, Chloe, that's a lie. That's exactly, like, when I was watching that, I was like, yes, that's what I was thinking exactly. Boss at home, she doesn't realize what she's doing until she gets her heart back. I felt like she left abruptly. Yeah, I feel like she left abruptly, but that moment with the sisters, when they were like, we have each other and we can help each other. What if you get the pixies together and find out how to protect your hearts? I thought that was a really strong sisterhood moment, and another metaphor about women kind of getting together and protecting each other, because in a sense, Zach was another metaphor of a man completely taking advantage of a woman, or anyone in this case, that sort of mind control. But yeah, I love that. And I hope that the pixies do get together and find a way to protect their hearts, because they should never have to do that. It's so messed up. Boss at home, you're killing me in this chat. It's so funny. Okay. And then that kind of ties it up. I did like this monster of the week. It was less it was at the hands of someone who didn't have magical powers but was controlling someone. So it was a little bit of a different twist than we've seen in the prior episodes. So I really liked it. And I think that the writing keeps getting better and better. So I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season, because even with this episode in particular, I thought the dimension of the pixie was deeper than some of the other characters that we've gotten for one episode. Okay, let's get into the sisters. Before we get into the sisters, I just wanted to thank you guys for letting AfterBuzz be the ESPN of TV talk. We love getting to talk to you guys every night. You're making this episode so fun for me. All of your feedback in the comments is the best. Keep it up. For us to continue to grow as a program and keep providing this great content, we would love your help. So if you're on YouTube, hit that like button and leave us a comment after this episode ends, so that we can reply to it and keep the conversation going past what we're doing right now. And if you're on iTunes, hey, give us a 5 stars and leave us a review. I love iTunes reviews. They're extra saucy to me. But no matter where you are, keep the conversation going. Like I said, we love to talk to you, and I know when my co-panelists get back, they'll want to see what you guys had to say about this episode. AfterBuzz has been the best for me, especially in all of the people at AfterBuzz. We get to talk to you guys about all things witchy and charmed and all other shows, but also we get to grow as individual hosts and people. So thank you guys so much. Okay, let's get into the sisters, because there's like a lot of individual B-plot love action going on, and I'm really curious if you guys are shipping the different relationships that are going on in this episode and what seems to be the whole like second half of this season, what's going to happen. So Mel and Jada, we open up basically with a scene of them in bed together, and Mel is putting on her pants, and I'm like, what? Like, things moved quickly. I don't know. I still don't know. I feel like I trust Jada, but it's weird for Mel to trust Jada this quickly, because we still don't know what happened to her mom. And we don't know what the Sarkana stands for, really. Like, we think we know, but we don't know what the Sarkana or the elders, what their deal is, which is also something that's kind of annoying me, because I really think that we need to know more about that. And that will make the show deeper in general, because we're focusing on the monster of the week, which is great. That's so charmed and charmed original. But if you want to make it like a modern show, like one that fits into like a 2019 show narrative, you need to have deep storylines. And if we don't know the basis of the elders and the Sarkana, like groups that really, really matter for the three sisters, then that's like a big fail. I think that, in my opinion, that's something that really needs to be tied up quickly, to keep people's interest and to dive deeper into all aspects of the story that they're trying to tell. But on a fun note, nice pad, Jada. That was a really cool studio she's got going on. I would love to have my setup look something like that. Carlos Hernandez, I'm still not sure about Jada. Something is off there. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. It seems like she's a good person and actually wants to help, but we don't know enough. Billie Jean Girl 24, I feel like Mel and Jada aren't going to last long. Something bad is going to happen to end their relationship. Yeah, Boss at Home, they need to show more of the elders. I think an upcoming episode is going to introduce another elder. Yeah, I hope so. And O'Dane Price agrees. We need to know more about the elders in the Sarkana. Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one, because I felt like kind of judgmental, but I feel like that's a great way for them to dive deeper in like witch history and establish the world that this Charmed is living in. Then we find out that Nico called Jada to tell her parents want her back. And we find out that Jada was adopted and her parents think she's in a cult and they don't know she's a witch because she is adopted. So, of course, they're normal civilians. They don't understand that. And she said that she started to act wild at the end of her living there. So I don't know who her parents are going to be, but then we find out that Mel decided to meet Jada's parents, which also seemed like a really quick step to me, because at least for me, I'm curious what you guys think. I'm not meeting the parents for a while. Like, if you're meeting my parents, you're really, really important, because I'm not going to waste their time, and I don't want to hear judgment on someone that I know is not like bulletproof. But then at the end of this episode, they get shot, like Jada gets shot at with, I don't know what it is, but we don't know if those are her parents or if those are someone who knew her parents were supposed to meet her and it was a setup. I'm not really sure about what my thoughts are on that situation, but I think that's definitely going to be figured out next episode. So maybe by the time I hit predictions, I'll have something conjured up in my head about that. But we'll see where their relationship goes. It is an exciting plot line for Mel, especially as she had to deal with the the erasing, basically, of her and Nico. And I love that Nico's still a part of the storyline, even though it's in a completely different way. It makes sense that she would be investigating because that was her job. Let's see what the chat says. Making Jada adopted could lead to some unforeseen situations depending on who her bio parents are. Agreed. Dark lighters, Boss at Home. Touche. Good point. Okay. Maggie and Parker. In the backstory of this, Macy and Parker's mom were working for a cure to get the demon out of both of them. And Maggie is aware of this, but there is a really cool scene with Maggie and Parker, though, when Parker is under the Pixie spell, but she thought that he wouldn't be, but she was able to reach him without speaking and break the spell, which correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's definitely her leveling up her powers and her abilities, because I don't think we've seen that before, where she's able to connect without words and even break a spell like that. So that was really, really cool to see. And I love seeing Maggie's storyline and her like develop into this total cool woman who's totally in control of herself. And that leads her to actually, after saving Parker, realize that she doesn't feel as weak and that she forgives him, and they made out. And I think that they're getting back together. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if I could forgive Parker if I was her. What do you guys think about that? It seems weird. Denisha Bessard said, I love that Maggie is giving him a chance. She, and Boss at Home, she did that for Harry too. Yeah, it was so cool. I loved seeing her powers do that. Boss at Home, it's going to progress into an active power. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I think that all of the sisters will keep progressing in their powers, but I'm glad she did, especially because she was the one who struggled with a lot of insecurity after the original Parker issue. So we'll see what happens there. I'm shipping them from now because I feel like he's not the guy his dad tried to make him be. Really deep down, he's not. But let's get into the juiciest thing of the night, Maci and Galvin. So it starts with him being like, I want to fix this. I want to help you find a way. And so they go try to talk to Galvin's grandmother, and she like possesses him essentially and brings him to a space where she could talk to him, and is so like wanted to literally kill Maci because she said, you brought the EB to me, the demon, the devil. And basically, and Galvin explains like, I love her. She wants to get rid of this. And only Shirji, I think that's how you said it, knows how to get rid of the EB, and he will devise a series of tests. If you fail, you will die. And that's how his grandmother lost her finger doing that. So, but Galvin's so he really wants to embark on this journey and save Maci. So we'll see. But that led him to saying that he loves her. And then we get led up into her room only to assume what happens. And this is a huge deal that leads right into my news and gossip. You guys, this is some good news and gossip. So, Maci and Galvin, we are to assume, finally take the next step in the relationship. And Entertainment News had the creators sit down with them and talk to them specifically about the scene because Maci's virginity, I didn't really realize this, but it hasn't been shown, like the topic of virginity and someone who's been a virgin not by religious reasons but more by circumstance hasn't been portrayed on TV according to them. And from what I know, I think they're right. Like, I have not seen that kind of storyline portrayed, and it is interesting because there are, I'm sure, a ton of people who it's not like they necessarily are saying they're not going to have sex, but they want to be in a relationship or they want to find the right person, and sometimes that doesn't happen. So it's like you don't have sex because of that, and that's actually that's a really interesting way to look at Macy's storyline and her personality and kind of where she will go in the future. And they were saying it's subtle and organic, closing on the two climbing the stairs together toward Macy's room. And it's a slight acknowledgement of what's coming next. O'Toole and Reardon, the creators, always wanted Maci to have this experience before the first season's end, but it was equally important to them that it remained true to Macy's character. Quote, they say, when she finally does have sex, we wanted it to continue in a way where it's not a huge big deal. We never wanted it to be painstaking for her. She just needed it to be the right time with the right person. And there it was. Macy's a pragmatist, and she knew it was time. The scene leading to this moment was honed over several drafts, landing on this final version where Macy's invitation to her bed and Galvin's seeking of consent is almost entirely nonverbal. We really didn't want to have a hemming and hawing and angsty episode about it because she is an adult. It doesn't mean she doesn't have feelings and fears. It's just Macy's a very matter-of-fact, practical person, and it was the right time. I absolutely love that they're taking on this, not issue, but this topic in this way and doing it through someone. They're not making it weird like the 4-year-old virgin. It's very kind of realistic to how an adult virgin, I think, would act. Like when they're ready, it's not because they were so like they had all these issues and fears. It was more just like they were waiting for the right time with the right person. So respect. I love that. I see you guys. Macy lost her V card. She definitely lost her V. Everyone talking about it. Love it. Yeah. So I love that. Let's get into our special segment now. We're going to be talking about episode 13 of the original Charmed, From Fear to Eternity. This was directed by Les Sheldon, written by Tony Blake and Paul Jackson, dated February 10th, 1999. Barbas, the demon of fear, spends Friday the 13th scaring witches to death. Literally, he tries to drown Prue in the shower as her greatest fear is drowning. Barbas realizes that Phoebe's greatest fear is losing a sister, so he tries to drown Prue again with Phoebe watching. This time, Prue feels the presence of her mother and manages to release her fear and vanquish Barbas. This episode, I remember specifically, I was like, what's gonna happen? Like, are we gonna lose a sister this time? It was so scary, and especially for me, living out your greatest fear is such a demented I don't even know what you call that. Like, you're the demon of fear. Like, to make yeah, that's what you call it. To make people live out their fears. That sounds like my biggest fear right there. But it's kind of similar in a way to this episode, where it's almost the opposite. Instead of doing their greatest fears, and the pixie was playing into their, not their desires, but kind of finding a way to do things to them by reaching a certain like part of their brain. So this episode was scary. I'm gonna rewatch this, but I remember I didn't watch this that long ago, and this was one where I was like, this is actually kind of scary. Do you guys remember this episode? Oh yeah, Boss at Home, her white streak of hair. Yes. The strongest demon of the charmed ones. The way the actor played Barbas made him seem sympathetic. You really couldn't hate him. Yeah, he was really scary to me. Great actor. Remember the episode with Barbas in the opposite world? He was like the demon of hope, I think. Yeah, what season was that in Boss at Home? Do you remember? I forget. But yeah, he was a great actor. And this was, like I said, one where I actually was really scared the entire time. Let's get into our predictions, though. Write your predictions right now in the chat while I'm thinking of mine, because there's a lot. I feel like that was set up for next episode. Let's see. Let's go with the sisters. I think obviously something is happening with Mel and Jada. I don't know if they both get taken or if Jada just gets taken, but we're either going to find out who her parents are, or maybe it's the elders setting her up and trying to take her for questioning. I'm not really sure about that situation, but something is definitely stirring up on that side of things. I think that Galvin will embark on the journey to try to find the way to cure Macy. I hope that there's nothing bad that happens to him while on this quest, and I hope that maybe it ties into the science that she's looking for with Parker's mom as well. Maybe it's like a combined way of them figuring out how to fix it between the both of them. And it's hard to say what's happening with Maggie, because I think we got a lot of her storyline for the season. So in this episode, we've gotten a good amount of all three of the sisters, so maybe we'll start taking it to the next step with each of them. But I'm curious where her and Parker will go to, if that will be more a part of the storyline, or if we're just to assume like they're seeing each other and it will stick with the sisters. I hope the latter, because it's always more interesting to see what the sisters are doing. I love a good relationship, don't get me wrong, but I do love the focus on the sisters more. Boss at Home, I think Jada's adopted parents might get killed after she reconnects with them. Dang, that would be tough. Billie Jean Girl, season 6, Barbas was a demon of hope in the opposite world. Good call. Thank you. I appreciate that. My fears that Macy losing her virginity to Galvin will result in triggering her dark side in some way, either with Galvin dying, trying to help, or cause of their intimacy. Carlos Hernandez. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that, because virginity and witches and magic always plays a deeper role. So not only are we getting like the deeper storyline with just a person being a virgin as an adult, but now, oh my god, that would be crazy if it has to play in with some sort of magic antidote. It has to. Great call. O'Dane Price, I think Nico set up Jada so she can have her answers to some questions. Mark Ryans, have you guys realized we haven't had a scene with just Mel and Macy? They have never even bonded yet. True. Yeah, because Mel was always the one that was kind of hard on Macy. Like, they don't really have a good communication, whereas Maggie is definitely the bridge between both of them. Fiona is going to be played the actress who played Cammy in the originals. Huh. Interesting. Well, I guess that wraps up this episode, but we will be back next week to talk about episode 14 of Charmed. Until then, I'm Steph Sabraw. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Steph Sabraw. Thank you guys so much for being in the chat. You made this so fun for me, even without my panelists. I love you guys. You will always be our panelists from home. Until next week, have a great rest of your week.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.